everyone, it's Casey from Pinecase. Welcome everybody on this Wednesday afternoon. I'm super blessed to have Surreal hanging out with me. Man, thank you so much for joining me. I know we've been trying to link up for a hot second, but yeah, I appreciate your time today.
Yeah, sorry about the confusion and trying to get uh hooked up sooner. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yeah.
Yeah, it's just been a real busy time since I got home, especially just trying to catch up to everything.
Yeah, hey, you've been out there doing all sorts of stuff. What the heck? How did the CR block party go for you?
It was great. Yeah, good times. Yeah, it was a long
That's
drive, a lot of driving, a lot of baseball, but it was fun. Yeah.
very cool. That one is interesting because I'm sure you do a ton of performances a year and there's all sorts of stuff happening, but there's every once in a while, as a consumer, there's things that are so near and dear to my heart, and that was definitely one of them. Um, I don't know if a lot of people know, but that location that you were at, I was actually I worked at the Performing Arts Theater right behind there. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, and was let go. And love them. We're all cool nowadays, but uh, right around the time when my brothers were passing away, and
Right.
so unfortunately, with stress and drama and all that crazy stuff, it wasn't gonna work. But it felt so good to see live music with my logo next to it and kick-ass artists like you right in front of that. I was like, oh yeah, this is wicked. So yeah, it felt really good.
Yeah, it was interesting. It was good, good, good day. The weather held out, so
Yeah, man. It was, I don't know what Rob's plan was. He was just like, rain or shine, this is what's going to be happening. And it looked like he had a couple of good tents going on and stuff like that for you guys. So it seemed like the your guys' audience kind of became part of the performance at one point.
yeah. Yeah, definitely. I like to try and make them part of the performance as it is. It wasn't the biggest crowd, so I had to kind of get them hyped up. But yeah, there was some interesting scenarios going on around the show itself.
Yeah, that's right. Well, we were gonna go live, and then Calico was like, I just don't think it's the right time for this. And I was like, why? What's going on? And she's like, I don't know. Surreal just rolled up, and there's cops and people and things. And I was like, oh no, I hope everyone's safe and all right.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote. I don't know if how frank you want me to be, but
Be frank.
when I rolled up, there was a girl with her butt hanging out. Yeah, buck naked. Well, not buck naked, but she was had her butt hanging out on the bench, and so then her friend was trying to urge everyone to not allow her to drive because she seemed maybe a little intoxicated. So then that's why the police were there. It wasn't because of me this time.
Okay.
It was just somebody who was trying to drive away intoxicated, and she didn't end
Okay.
up doing that. They ended up getting taken away and having their vehicle towed, which was probably for the best for everyone. Even though they ended up going with the police, it was better than them hurting themselves or hurting someone else. So
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, that's a crazy situation. I know that downtown core has changed so much over, even just a short period of time. When I was growing up there, everyone kind of kept their problems indoors. It wasn't really a public thing. And now everyone's just doing their thing right out in the open.
well, I think that's everywhere, right? Like even when I was in my addiction, I was telling people that I would stay inside my house and never go out. But that's the thing is nowadays with addictions, you can't even afford to have an addiction and still have housing really. Because when I was addicted, my rent was $350 a month or something, so I could still manage to scrape by and pay my rent.
Right. Yeah.
If you're addicted and you don't have $1,500 to $1,800 a month, you don't have a place to live. And even if you're in addictions and you have $1,500 a month, you don't even want to spend it on rent. You want to spend it on whatever your drug of choice is. So
Yeah, man. And you can't really afford, never mind the price of it, but to be doing these drugs indoors by yourself, that's the quickest way to become a statistic, right? Before, I don't know, when I was in the mix of all my stuff, it wasn't as lethal as it is now, right? And they encourage you to kind of be out in the open so that they can essentially save your life if something goes down.
I guess, yeah, and it's also like back when I was addicted, if you did the stuff that I did out on the streets, you'd get arrested, like
Yeah,
instant. You'd go to jail. Now they're just so overwhelmed that they can't arrest people. They can't arrest everyone that's doing drugs on the street because they would just spend all day long arresting people, and the jails would be so full that they wouldn't even have anywhere to put anyone, you know? So it's like it's
yeah,
such a bigger issue now than it was back in the day. Like when I was a crackhead, I was one of the only crackheads I knew. Like it was
yeah.
it's like
Right.
me in the small crackhead community that I knew that we could score drugs with, and now it's like almost every person that like you could find 1 in 10 of your friends that has an opiate addiction that you might not even be aware of. Like
Yeah.
there's functioning addicts everywhere, right? So it's like it's a whole different ball game because I think it's just become so much more widespread. And the thing with opioids is like it's not like coke or crack where you can just like feel shitty about it for a couple days and then like get back on track and then like get your stuff back out of the pawn shop and shake your head and be like, damn, I shouldn't have done that. Whereas like opioids, like you're in it. Like you're
Yeah.
either in it or you're not in it. Like and when you're in it, you're just all the way in it. Like there's no in between. There's no like, oh, I'm just gonna get off this for a week and maybe go back to it as a recreational user. Like it's not that. It's a total different lifestyle. Like once you're addicted to those opioids and they have their stranglehold on your receptors in your body, it's over with. Like you're full blown into it, you know. So it's a whole different ball game now, I think.
Yeah, totally. I was trying to explain OAT medication to someone, and they're like, "Yeah, but that's just like still such a high dose of something." And I was like, "Well, then can you imagine how bad like the addiction actually is when that's the solution?" I was
Yeah,
like,
totally. Yeah, I don't know. Like I'm really happy that I never went that way really. Like I was prescribed opioids for like a chronic pain
"Right,
thing that I still struggle with, but I ended up taking them back to my doctor and giving him half the bottle of them back
wow,
because I knew that I was becoming addicted to them. And I knew like my next step was like going to the streets. Because once your doctor cuts you off, it's like,
yeah,
and they are going to eventually cut you off.
yeah,
Um, you have no option but to go to the streets, go to the black market and start dabbling in the other forms, you know? So it was like, I was just on perks and like, it was like, I started taking half of one a day for the pain. Then
yeah,
that stopped working. So I started taking one a day. And I started taking two a day. And I was just like floating through my day. I didn't care what happened. Like I didn't need to eat. I drank like a coffee in the morning and just went to work for 8 hours. And I'd get home and be like, wow, that was a great day. Like I really didn't feel anything. I didn't have to like be sad. I didn't have to eat. Like it was just a great day all around. And I was like, wait a minute, like these are too good. Like, and
right,
now if I'm taking two right now, how many am I going to be taking by like next month?
mm,
So like I literally brought him back 32 of them in a bottle and was like, I need you to take these. And he's like, this is the first time anyone's ever returned these to me. And I was like, what are my options? And he's like, well, you can keep taking these or you can just be in the pain that you're in. And I was like, that's fine with me. I'm gonna like live in this like chronic pain that I'm learning to deal with without the opioids. Because if not, I'm gonna be a junkie. Like I'm gonna be. I have
yeah,
an addictive personality.
right,
So, and I'm well aware of that for myself. So I
yeah,
like,
yeah."
and it's
Well,
hard.
now,
Yeah.
like you don't even have to have an addictive personality to enjoy those things. Like I don't think people understand like how relaxing and comfortable those pills really are. You know, like
Yeah.
those.
They really put you in a state of euphoria that like, I can
Mhm,
only imagine what fentanyl and heroin feel like. Like it's that times 10, right? So
yeah.
it's like no wonder people don't give a shit what people think about them or like what they look like or whether they're smoking heroin in public or whether they're nodding out. Like you don't really care about anything when you're in that state. So
Yeah, yeah, I know that well actually. And it's crazy to me because there isn't a solution for like long-term pain management, right? Unless you like, I mean, there is a little bit now, I guess, with like it's like more research into like medicinal. marijuana and things like that, and like alternative medicines and things, and it's great, and those are all wonderful solutions. Thank goodness that we're starting to like explore them a bit. But um, the idea that they had back in like the 90s to like overprescribe everybody, and it was like selling them on this like great idea that they would get their life back,
Yeah.
was they just didn't prepare properly for any of that. It's like,
Well, yeah, the pharmaceutical companies just wanted to make more money, and they sold it as like the miracle cure for everything. And so
yeah.
even people that were like totally average people, not addicts, not in a life of trauma, not in a, an experience of trying to cope or numb their pain out,
Mm,
um, found this miracle drug and then got addicted to it. Because like once those chemicals in your body start reacting to those kind of drugs, it's nearly impossible to get yourself off of them. Like it's like the sickness that comes with it, and then the people that had chronic pain that didn't want to, go to marijuana. And that's the thing about marijuana and CBD and all that stuff. It's really good. It doesn't work for everyone. It doesn't work with certain people's brain chemistry. Like, for instance, when I used to smoke weed, if I smoked weed and went and got a tattoo, I would feel it 10 times more. Most
yeah.
people would smoke it and be like, "Oh, I'm so relaxed. It's going to make me feel good." But no, it actually makes like your skin more sensitive. So if you have like a neurological um, disorder, then yeah, it can really help. But if you have any kind of like chronic physical pain, like it doesn't work for everyone because everyone's brain chemistry is different, and it changes too over time.
Yeah, really. Yeah, people don't really talk about that. Like I know, like when I was getting tattooed, everyone was like, "Oh, just have a couple of beers first," or like, whatever. And I was like, if I had a couple of beers first, like I would enjoy the tattoo process, and then coming out the other side of it, I would be an absolute hot mess for like a week. Like you just can't. Like my body couldn't go through that type of stress. It was like it needed to go into shock properly at the beginning to like recover from it in like a healthy way. It was like,
Well, and that's the thing that most people don't realize is blood, like alcohol thins out your blood.
yeah,
Actually,
yeah,
it makes you bleed more while you're getting tattooed, which is why you should never get tattooed while you're hungover, and which
right.
is why you should never like get super drunk and then get tattooed because it makes it more difficult for the ink to go in. So your tattoo is going to take longer because they're wiping away more blood as you're getting tattooed, right? So a
Mm,
lot of people don't understand that. Like one beer is probably like the limits, because then that starts flowing through your body, your blood gets really thin, and you're getting more raw and more sore because the tattoo artist is constantly rubbing that blood away, right? So yeah, that sore feeling after your arm has been rubbed off for a while, right? So,
yeah.
and another thing about it is like my brain chemistry changed as well. Like when I was younger, I used to smoke the strongest weed I could possibly get. Like,
Yeah.
give me the indica, give me the super high percentage. I want to be stoned. Like, none of the other stuff gets me baked. And then I quit for a couple months and started smoking again. And I couldn't even smoke that stuff anymore because it would give me anxiety. Now, a lot of people's brain chemistry is the opposite. They can't smoke sativa because it gives them anxiety. They can only smoke indica. Whereas I can only smoke sativa because I feel like I'm actually getting things accomplished. Whereas indica makes me feel like I'm not doing anything and I'm stupid and like I can't even form sentences and things like that. I can't really do anything but play video games and eat everything in my fridge. So,
Right.
you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I was the same when I was a kid. I used to like fight my mom about it. Like
Yeah.
I was like, man, I'm not going to school unless you bring the weed. Like I ain't
Yeah.
doing nothing until you bring the weed in the morning. And like she's like, this is crazy. Like how did this even happen? And people are like, oh, you can't get addicted to weed. I don't know if that's what it was, but I definitely would prefer to start my day with it. Like into like an angry place. Like I took it like far. And now, my God, like even I was like, man, I want that like wheelchair bob crazy weed. Like
Yeah.
now I'm like, I don't even know if like I don't even want to go into like the legit, government funded buildings with weed in it because like this stuff
Yeah.
fast.
I mean, like that's the thing is I don't think you can get necessarily I do honestly think you can get addicted to weed. It's a
Mm,
different kind of addiction though. It's not like one of those ones where if you don't get it, you'll get sick. But that's one of the reasons that made me quit smoking weed is because when I couldn't find my weed in the morning, I'd be grumpy.
Yeah.
And I was like, why am I being grumpy because I can't find some weed? Like this is another dependency. You've just switched one drug for another, you know? And so like a lot of people will say the same thing about coffee. Like, oh, don't even talk to me until I have my coffee in the morning. Well, that's an addiction, yo.
Mm-hmm.
You can't be talked to until you have coffee or weed in the morning. That's an issue, you
Yeah.
know. And most people are okay with coffee because it's a legal substance. Everyone drinks coffee, but that's also like an addictive thing that it's becoming a crutch, right? And that's what was happening for me is I would smoke weed in the morning, then I'd smoke weed at lunch, then I'd smoke weed after work, then I'd need
Yeah.
to smoke weed to write a song, then I need to smoke weed to go to sleep. And it's like, okay, so if I don't have weed, like how do I function then? You know? So I quit weed for 5 days and just to see if I could do it because I like to maintain control over myself.
Yeah.
And then I just went 7 and then I went 10 and then I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna try 30. And
Wow.
after 30 days, I was like having these crazy recurring traumatic nightmares. I couldn't sleep, you know. The grumpiness was kind of gone, but I was just like so afraid to smoke weed. You know, I was like, if I smoke weed, I'm gonna have like anxiety first and foremost, and I'm just gonna fall right back into it. I'm gonna be like, oh yeah, this is what I needed. You know, this is what I because to be honest, like my creativity hasn't 100% come back for writing
Mm.
because I used to smoke weed to write, and I've smoked weed since I was like 6 years old.
Right. What? What?
Yeah, oh yeah, my parents used to blaze with me. They were hippies. Like I used to
Okay.
roll their joints for them. Like yeah, I lived a pretty crazy life when I was younger.
Yeah.
Um, so it was just it became something that was part of my life, you know. And without it, I didn't feel normal. And now it's like people smoke around me, and I'm like, oh yeah, you guys go ahead. Like I'm not gonna judge you, but like I'm almost stoned just standing beside you. Like I went to a Tool concert, and these people were blazing beside me.
Yeah.
I actually got so stoned just by standing there that I wanted to leave the concert. And Tool is one of my favorite bands. And
Oh, yeah, man.
I
I've
was
seen
like,
them
why,
live.
why would I want to leave? Like, the only reason I want to leave is because I'm having anxiety. So it just wasn't fun to me anymore. You know, when it stops becoming fun, that's when I think you can tell yourself that this isn't for me anymore. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah, that's totally fair. I feel kind of that way about booze. Like, I don't mind having a cocktail, like socially or whatever. It's not that big of a deal. But I have like a different relationship with it now than I ever had. Like, I guess for a while, I didn't realize it, but it was like, like a box of wine was like part of the grocery list, and it like never really got out of hand.
yeah,
But once I like stopped doing it, I was like, man, I feel so much better. Like, I was like more productive and like maybe less short with my kids and like I don't know.
yeah, that's what something I'm trying to work on right now because it's like part of the entertainment industry. It's part of playing baseball. It's part of like most of the things that I do is just having a casual beer and like then like your neighbor wants to come over and have a beer and it's summertime and it's just like I find myself like I went from this weekend drinker to like there's only a couple days where I don't drink now. So I'm just like, holy shit, like I need to get a handle on this too now, you know? So that's something that I'm honestly working through myself right now. Like my
Yeah.
friends have been inviting me out all day. Like it's sunny, let's go, bro. I'll pick you up right after work. I got a case of beer and I'm just like, you know what? I just did a whole weekend of
Yeah.
baseball. I just did a whole tour of Europe where
Yeah.
like it's normal to drink beer all day long there. And
100%.
I just like I need to give my liver a break for a few days and just like stay away from everybody. So
Yeah, it's hard to do that in the summer though, man. Like especially where you're at, like tubing down the river,
yeah.
freaking going to the lake, like
Well, especially
anything go for ice cream, like anything out there, like you could totally have here.
well, because I'm such a social person and
Mm.
I'm usually down for that, people start to wonder what's wrong with me if I'm not, you know, they're like, what's going on with you? Are you back? Are you doing drugs again? I'm like, no, like I just don't want to be around y'all right now. Like I need to just chill for a minute. Um, so yeah, speaking of that, like you wanted to talk a little bit about the performance at CR, so we kind of got a little off there, but I've got about 4 minutes, 5 minutes.
Yeah,
So
I was super, super curious. Sorry to like go on a little bit of a
oh,
tangent, but yeah,
no,
I'm super curious because when you were performing, there was this gentleman that was performing with you, and there was this really neat moment where you kind of like you walked us all through a really neat experience, and it had a lot to do with stigma. And I think as someone who was in the audience that day, I got to watch people go from being like, "Oh, that must be so annoying to like experience that while you're trying to perform," to being like, "Oh man, like dude, that guy's having such a good time." And he's like actually kind of looks like he's part of the performance all of a sudden. And like, was this rehearsed? And then it just went on for so long that because you made it cool, and I'm sure like that's, like as an artist you want to make sure that you're being respectful, but at the same time, like, are you aware that because you're so gracious and comfortable to be around, that that it actually has like a massive impact on your audience and what they're experiencing?
Yeah, I think for the most part, like aside from being aware that there could be dangers with that, um, I'm always cognizant of the fact of someone having a good time and like always want to make people feel part of the show anyway. And my music has always been very inclusive, very like connecting. So like if someone's coming up and dancing, I'm not gonna shut that down. Like I'm not gonna um like there was one person that was like, "Hey man, give me the mic. I want to rap about what I'm going through." And I was kind of like, "Well, no, this is kind of my part of the show. Afterwards, I'm sure the mic's available for you if you want to go talk to Robbie, but like for now, I'm just going to do my thing, you know." But as far as like yeah, bringing that guy into the show was just natural for me because he was having a good time. He wasn't hurting anybody. He was completely harmless. But like you said, there was people on the sidelines like, should we grab this guy? Like,
Yeah.
should we get him out of here? Even my buddy was like, yo, like, and I was like, no, that was cool, man. Like, and he had a great time. You know what I mean? And then once I embraced that and was made him part of the show, everyone was cheering for him. Everyone was like bigging him up, and he got props at the end, and he was just super stoked. You know what I mean? He gave me a big hug and was like, that was really cool. And he might not have even remembered being there the next day,
Yeah,
you
maybe
know,
not.
but the fact of the matter was we made his day that day. So that was what it was about for me. And I mean, he was a great hype man too, you know. So
Totally. Yeah, totally. Yeah, I totally. And I think like I think that it's like being reflective is super great, but in the moment I was like that could yeah, again, like as being in the audience, I was like, man, like it's cool to watch, to be able to like walk through a situation like that. And it must be really interesting to kind of like read the room in like real time, because obviously like those situations can go south like really quickly. But yeah, I wanted to like acknowledge it and just like extend a massive, like lovely olive branch, because I think the more that people act like that and are kind to each other, the quicker it is to like end maybe the stigma, or at least create more conversation. Because I know that that's exactly what happened, in my household that day. And I was like, it's really beautiful to
yeah,
experience.
I think like I said to you that day, everyone deserves human compassion and respect to a
Mm,
certain level, you know. He wasn't being aggressive. He wasn't being a jerk. He wasn't trying to interrupt the show.
yeah,
And I can judge all those things, like you said, on the fly. I'm a very good judge of danger, character, trauma,
yeah,
crazy, bad, and good experiences. So I just felt like the energy was right. He was just there to have a good time. So I was there to try and enhance that good time, but also let everyone else know that
yeah.
he was harmless and everything was good, you know, because like you said, it can break down that wall of stigma where everyone's like, oh, who the f- is this guy? Like, where really it turned out to be like, oh, this guy is Ernie and he's having a blast. So
Yeah, he's totally wicked. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
let's just let him have a blast, you know.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, shout out to Ernie, and sorry for calling him out in this podcast. I was like, what a great example, like to kind of shed a light on. I actually know him personally, so I have no problem talking about his business.
Oh yeah, he is a beauty. Yeah,
But
really
yeah,
good, man.
yeah, absolutely. I'm just looking at the time here, so I'm gonna let you wrap this up and go and do your thing today. But thank you so much for cutting me in for a couple of
Thanks
minutes.
for having me. I'll come back anytime. You know that.
Yeah, totally. Thank you
So
so
yeah,
much.
shout out to
Yeah.
Pinecase, sorry,
No.
Pinecase podcast. And shout out to Calico. I can see you down there. Shout out to everybody that tuned in. I really appreciate you guys for having me on. Thank you for Kalisha to have me on as well. If you want to find me, you can find me at surreal.ca, Surreal Music Official, anywhere you want to find me. So
Yeah, you guys, if you haven't already, go and head over there, like, share, comment, and subscribe. That it's music you will never regret listening to. It plays all the time in my household. We like it. We got everyone from cowboys to kids listening to that stuff now. So thank you so much for making awesome music.
I appreciate you, Felicia. I hope you have a good day.
Yeah, you too, hun.
Okay, I'll see you guys later.
Bye.